family. Film with family. Film with family.
Grizzly Man is certainly about somebody who coexisted with animals, specifically bears and foxes.
I forgot about the foxes, really.
Me too. That was a pleasant I was really happy when Spirit and Timmy and Ghost show up.
Yeah.
Grizzly Man is the 2005 documentary directed by Werner Herzog. This film sort of marked Herzog's like return to the public eye as a director. I think he continued to make films through his whole life, obviously, but Grizzly Man kind of put him back in the spotlight because it was a very popular documentary about Timothy Treadwell, who was animal lover, bear lover.
Yeah, I think so.
He spent 13 summers in a national park in Alaska and just was kind of there to protect the bears and to film himself for educational purposes, which I guess he kind of taught children all over the country when he was home about bears and about living with the bears.
For no fee.
For no fee, for free.
It is like sort of a hard question to answer, Austin. Like, what I was wondering that like halfway through the movie, because it goes over that like in the beginning, like he is educating children. He's going around, but like throughout the movie, when he's talking about like he's saving the bears, he's protecting them, like, and what, like, I kept like wondering, how is he protecting the bears again? Like, in what way is he doing this? And like, I guess the answer is like through like building awareness, but like he very much didn't like help the bears, and he interfered with them. He got at least like one of them killed, and like people visited spots, he thought, at least, and like sometimes to see him like with the bears, like and so like in terms of like what he was actually doing to help them, unclear a little bit to me if that's the outcome.
They talk about like him making some foundation called Grizzly People with like his friend who's interviewed in the movie, but they don't really get into the specifics of how Grizzly People was helping bears or what the organization was actually doing. But I don't know. It's a little vague on that. He's definitely in his mind. It seemed like he thought he was protecting the bears against poachers, which the movie kind of like says like poaching is not an issue where he's going to. So it does feel like he's maybe doing more harm than good is what the film kind of comes off as.
Yeah. I mean, that is the question. He's a very problematic figure. Many of the natives of Alaska really disagreed with his involvement, which is documented in the film. But he did raise a lot of awareness. And if you check out on YouTube, if you look up Diary of Grizzly Man, like a multi-part documentary, I think it's 3 or 4 episodes, kind of taking Timothy Treadwell's footage and framing it kind of more like how he was envisioning all of this footage to be packaged. So it's more of like a nature documentary and him kind of methodically explaining each of the bears and where they live and the habitat and what they do, what they eat. You know, it's just like kind of a very classic educational film about bears.
So it's like 100% using his footage.
Yeah, and his notes and diary entries. And when you look at it that way, I mean, it's very, this movie is very much from Werner Herzog's perspective. And I would say that Herzog makes it more about, well, like the inner psychology of Timothy Treadwell, but also it's kind of a movie about filmmaking. At least from Herzog's perspective. just as a filmmaker himself, is looking at this guy just kind of relentlessly shooting this stuff by himself and capturing these really kind of magical moments. And seems like that's what interests Herzog more than necessarily like the educational aspect of the bears. He's more interested in this guy's dedication to filming.
Yeah, Wes, I'm curious, what's your relationship to this movie and how do you feel about Grizzly Man?
I feel like I like knew about it when I was a kid, and when I like certainly didn't watch movies or anything. Didn't didn't care about art or anything. It was like Grizzly Man is the movie about the guy who gets killed by grizzly bears, and then like later found out about it again and was like, oh, that's a Herzog movie. That actually sounds sick.
Hmm.
It's a movie I've put on many times and fallen asleep during many times. Um, that's on me. That's not about the movie being boring or anything. It's just a personal failing of mine. But yeah, it's a very beautiful movie. The soundtrack is gorgeous.
Oh
The
man.
the imagery, like where they are in Alaska, is super pretty, and it is like a really fascinating character study because like is it is it a movie? It's like it's not the movie that Timothy Treadwell was trying to make, like because it's not like about like saving the bears. There's all these personal moments, but at the same time, like he did shoot those personal moments. He shot the moments where he's talking right into the camera and cussing up a storm and like begging and demanding God for rain for the
Hmm.
bears.
Oh yeah.
And like,
Talking about his alcoholism and
yeah,
the fact that he's definitely not gay.
Yeah, it gets into it all.
he does. Yeah, he's got the good little part where he's like hiking and like he's got the camera like looking at him. He's like
Yeah.
going over the pros and cons of dating him. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I don't get more girls. I'm
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
I don't fight. I have an awesome life.
Yeah. Just happened to live with grizzly bears half my life.
I wish
Yeah.
I was gay, but I'm
Yeah.
not.
You know, he's like, bummer, I'm not gay. It's like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
he might be
definitely
a little
like is
gay. I don't know, but
yeah, he's a
who's
little
who are we supposed
effeminate
to
for
say?
sure. For sure.
Yeah, but definitely a very interesting character. Yeah, I saw this movie in high school and was kind of blown away by it. And
Hmm.
I feel like and I just rewatched it last night. And I feel like my memory of it wasn't that they actually did like play the audio because they have audio of him and his girlfriend getting killed by the bears and like I feel like I remembered like hearing the audio, but I guess but you that doesn't happen. They just describe it so much and like kind of make such a moment of Warner like listening to the audio and his reaction to it. Like it feels like you're actually listening to it. So like it like kind of buried in my mind that I actually heard it, but it's not in the film, which was a tasteful choice by Werner. And
Yeah.
encourages the woman to destroy the tape.
that's so haunting. I feel like that scene, like watching her watch him, like
Listen
with
to
the
it.
camera,
Yeah.
listen to the audio of him being killed and him being like, "Can you turn it off?" And then like taking the headphones off, and he's like, "Don't ever watch this. Like,
Yeah.
destroy this is what I think you
Yeah.
should do."
It'll
Like
be the
that
white elephant in your room all your life.
is that the origin of the phrase "white elephant"? Like white elephant.
No, I don't think so. But the Christmas exchange.
Yeah,
Everybody
probably not.
give each
But
other horrifying audio.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard that he later regretted or like saying to destroy it. Like he regretted like saying that was just like a silly reaction in the moment. Like, but I guess in actuality, she just like put the tape like in a vault and didn't destroy it. And he thinks that's a better way of dealing with it than destroying it.
yeah.
Which I thought was interesting for sure.
You mentioned the soundtrack, and that was something that I also forgot about this movie is how beautiful the soundtrack is. And I didn't realize until this viewing that it's Richard Thompson, who is an incredible folk guitarist. He wrote that song 1952 Black Lightning. Do you know that song, Zach?
I don't know that song, but I do know this album. I want to see the bright lights tonight,
Mm,
which is Richard and Linda Thompson, like him and his ex-wife. It's like a 70s album, and I've really been getting more into that album lately. And so I was like, whoa, this like album I
mhm.
was just like listening to last week. It's like this is the guy from that.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a cool connection, and I'd recommend that album. But I haven't checked out his other music. I just like that one album a lot.
Well, 52 Black Lightning is one of my mom's favorite songs, and I have a very fond memory of me, grandpa, and my mom listening to this song in the living room at 1706 and grandpa crying. And let me just play a little bit of it.
Oh, says Red Molly to James, that's a fine motorbike. A girl could feel special on any such like. Says
Yeah.
James
It's a very it's like a story. It's a really, really beautiful story.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, the soundtrack adds so much power to the film, like just from those opening moments of just seeing the bears and that like single guitar just kind of ringing through the landscape. It just sounds so beautiful.
Yeah. And also that closing track, Coyotes, which isn't
Hmm.
isn't Richard Thompson. Forget the name of the guy who did that song, but that's a really beautiful way to end the movie. Hoo yip, hoo yip, hoo.
Yeah.
That's
Let's,
beautiful.
yeah, let's listen to it.
Oh, Don Edwards.
Was a cowboy I knew in South Texas. His face was burnt deep by the sun.
Just want to get to the woo
Part
yips.
sage, part mesquite.
Might be like a minute in.
He was there when Pancho Villa was young, and he'd tell you a tale of the old days.
Be a good song for you to cover, Zach.
There you go. Woo yip, woo yip, woo. Woo yip, woo, woo, woo. Woo yip, woo yip, woo. Woo yip, woo yip, woo. Now the Longhorns are gone.
You see the helicopter pilot singing this song at the very end of the film. And he says, like, he's like, the Longhorns are gone. He's like, and Treadwell is gone. And I was like, did they write this song for Grizzly Man? But apparently it was just like, it was an old cowboy tune.
I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for this on vinyl. This is on wax, baby. Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
good vinyl? The
Oh,
record put on
absolutely.
Saturday
Oh, for
morning.
sure. Yeah. Little crackle, little woo yip to
Yeah.
start your weekend.
He really sounds like Bruce Springsteen on the verses. Not so much in the
Mhm.
Who Yips, but I was like, is this Bruce? But it's not.
Yeah. It's got like a Nebraska feel for sure.
Yeah, this movie was also making remind me of another film with family film, Into the Wild. I
I was
guess,
thinking about it too. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I know Wes, you're a fan of that movie.
Yeah, it was my freshman, sophomore in college, and I was going backpacking all the time. It was favorite of mine. Thought I was going to follow in his footsteps.
Mhm.
And if I keep not being able to hold down a job, I just might someday. But yeah, I love that movie. This one
Yeah.
has a better soundtrack, I think now, but back then I would have voted Eddie better.
Yeah, a lot of parallels between Chris McCandless and Timothy Treadwell. Both went to Alaska and got killed by nature. Both kind of cautionary tales of going it alone in nature.
And they also monologue to cameras too.
They should, yeah, they do. And then, yeah, the Eddie Vedder soundtrack sort of similar too. Got some woo yip in there for sure.
Timothy describes himself as a kind warrior, and he says, "I can smell death all over my fingers." I just wrote that down. And people just talk about how it seemed like he kind of had a death wish, or like he's like, "I'll be really happy if I get killed by bears." Like that. That seems like the vibe he was trying to put out there. He's like, "This is how I want to go."
hmm
And yeah, it is an interesting choice that like only 9 minutes into the movie that like Warner like lets you know that like he was killed by bears and stuff. Like I like that they don't try to withhold that information at all. Like it's very much at the beginning of the movie that you know that this passion of his kills him. It's just a very well structured movie, I think, how it reveals more information about him.
Yeah, and like very much he seems like sort of suicidal throughout the whole thing. He seems pretty bipolar, and he's flirting with death. And like he variously says, like, "I am not going to get killed by bears. Tell you that much." And then he later says, "I don't want to get killed by bears." And like for someone who doesn't want to get killed by bears, he certainly spends a lot of time looking into the camera and talking about it and like
Hmm.
testing whether or not that's going to happen to him. He's testing himself. The circumstances that are relayed at the end, like him staying late into the season where only like the hungriest bears are still out, like desperate for food,
Yeah,
like
before hibernation. Yeah.
very, very complicated dude.
Yeah, he says multiple times that he will die for these bears, you know, that he will live and die for these bears. So it definitely does seem like he has the death wish, and he is, by his own admission, very troubled guy. You know, he like doesn't have a companion. He seems like he's an alcoholic. He had like some overdose issues. I love it was a very Gates of Heaven moment when he interviews his parents,
Yeah,
who are
yeah,
like seem like they're totally out of Gates of Heaven, and even the
Hmm.
way that he kind of structures the interview looks very similar. And
Yeah, like the way it's
the
composed.
and like the dad is like, he did try to smoke marijuana in the house. I put the kibosh on that. It's so
yeah,
good.
and like very emotionally disconnected, and you can
hmm
like very easily see how this guy was like, no, fuck that,
hmm
like developed like part of whatever is wrong with him, like from whatever that situation was.
The reveal that he was almost cast in Cheers as like the Woody Harrelson role, and that how that crushed him, and that was
Yeah.
like what like spun him off onto this bear spiral. It was like what? I didn't know this guy was like trying to be an actor at all. That's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
so crazy. I was trying to track down his Love Connection episode, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, that is so funny that it's like all of this happened because Woody Harrelson got the bartender role instead of him.
And he was like a diver. He was like a college athlete who then like
hmm
breaks his back and like gets into drugs and like
Yeah.
um, yeah, very, very all around tragic tale. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy that he didn't get killed earlier, right? Like, I mean, especially some of those scenes that you see, like he's like reaching his hand out, bears are like sniffing him. It does kind of make you think, like, well, maybe bears aren't as aggressive as they seem, but that might be also a problematic issue, with what he was doing in terms of like educating people about bears is like, was he trying to like tell people that they're not as dangerous as like people make them out to be? That he says very frequently that they're misunderstood animals, but yeah, they are vicious and fucking killer animals. So, I mean, both the bears getting habituated to humans through him is bad for the bears because they learn to trust bear or humans more and they might be poachers. And then vice versa, it seems like it was not very responsible of him to try to make bears out to be like these peaceful creatures, which they aren't.
Yeah. And Werner says himself, like, I only see the eyes of indifference in the bears or something. He has some great line about that.
Yeah, I want to play that line because this is another iconic Herzogian quote, which I think is pretty much the thesis of the whole film, at least in Herzog's eyes.
And what haunts me is that in all the faces of all the bears that Treadwell ever filmed, I discover no kinship, no understanding, no mercy. I see only the overwhelming indifference of nature. To me, there is no such thing as a secret world of the bears, and this blank stare speaks only of a half-bored interest in food. But for Timothy Treadwell, this bear was a friend, a savior.
Amazing. How do we feel about Herzog's injecting himself into the narrative of this film? Do you think it makes it a better film? Do you think he kind of oversteps the boundaries a little bit? Or what do you think, Wes?
Um, well, to me, it's crazy how popular this film was. Like so much of like I feel like this was like got to be one of his most watched films.
Yeah.
Like normal people watch this and like accidentally watched a Herzog film. Like he's got
Yeah.
another line at a different point in the movie where he says, "Here I differ with Treadwell. He seemed to ignore the fact that in nature there are predators. I believe the common denominator of the universe is not harmony, but chaos, hostility, and murder." um,
Murder.
which which is so cool. Like
It's fucking metal as hell.
I mean, I love like everything that Herzog says in it, so I'm very glad that he like injects his own like side of the story because there's lots of other sides of the story being told beyond just Timothy's. So, like at the end of the day, like it is a movie about Timothy, but it's Herzog's movie, and it's what he
Mhm.
made out of what he says is over 100 hours of footage.
Mhm.
Still down to pretty lean, like hour 45.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of this movie just is found footage. It's like half the movie's already just made with just using the footage that Timothy already shot. It's all great stuff. And yeah, I like how when Warner's just talking about all the different takes he would do and like he would just like keep retrying like the same line of dialogue 15 times and like try it with a different energy, one where he's angrier, one where he's happier, or just try and do it shorter. I don't know, all that stuff super interesting, like you were saying, how he's more interested in by his filmmaking than what is ecological footprint,
Mhm.
or I don't know how to say it.
Herzog does such a great job of just rolling a little bit further past, the point of the edit where most people would edit something. So like there's that moment where he gets really emotional and says like, I had no life, I have a life. And then it like cuts to another take and he's like, we gotta find Banjo, he's missing. He's like, it's like, now we have to find Timmy the Fox and Banjo's missing. It's just like after he just like spills his guts and is like got tears in his eyes still. But he does that with his interviews too. Like there's that great scene where the coroner gives Jewel his wristwatch. Um, and like the coroner's just like, and yeah, so there it is. And then like just like keeps on the two of them and then just slowly pushes in on Jewel, and she's just like, this is all I have. I feel like most people would just stop the camera after it was handed over, but like he just wants to stretch out every possible little magic moment, which he talks about a lot. Like where he's like, no production studio in Hollywood with their union crews could ever imagine getting a fox like running after a man.
Yeah, he catches the little moments like where people, usually Timothy, like drop their guard like after the take is ended and are like just sort of being themselves without the camera on them a bit. Yeah, that's a great point. And I don't know if I totally agree with Herzog. I don't know if I agree with him that like that face, that bear's face is just like a bored indifference to food. I think like the inner life of the bear is maybe a little bit more complex. And I don't know if like he really actually developed a community that he said he was developing. But to your point, like if he survived out there for like 13
Mhm.
years, like I would die instantly out there. A bear would kill me right away. I'd be
Yeah.
very easy to kill. But one of those foxes could probably do it. Those foxes were so cute. But yeah, I don't know. But I'm very glad that he injected his own opinions in the way that he did.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
those foxes.
Yeah, I love the ghost fox that steals his hat. That whole scene of wanting his hat back. It's great.
Like,
Maybe we
oh,
could play that clip, or we should play some clip of Timothy talking, just because I don't know, his
yeah.
personality really comes out in how he speaks.
Oh man. No, come on. Ghost, I need that hat. No, man.
Fox steals his hat and he like Ghost, bring the hat back, and then eventually like gets like pretty mad, like sincerely angry that the fox took off with his hat.
It's unclear why he's so mad about the hat. I guess because he had this whole idea of like of continuity of like I have to be wearing this hat in like all the shots or something, or he would try shots where he's not wearing a hat or he's not wearing no hat.
And often dangerous. Grizzly Maze.
Now the scene seems to be over, but as a filmmaker, sometimes things fall into your lap, which you couldn't expect, never even dream of.
Hi, Spirit.
There is something like an inexplicable magic of cinema.
Hi, Spirit.
And so the fox runs into frame with
Well, I'm
little
here
babies.
with Mr. Chocolate and Spirit, the fox, and here come some of her pups. Yay! Come some of her pups. What are you doing to that hat? Where's that hat going? Hey, who's stealing that hat? Let me see that hat.
A
Ghost, I
second
want
fox
that
came
hat.
in and stole it.
Man, Ghost is bad. Ghost, what are you doing with that hat? Ghost, that hat is a very important hat. Drop it. Thanks. Oh, God damn it. I can't believe this. Ghost! Ghost, where's that fucking hat? That hat is so friggin' valuable for this trip. Ghost, you come back here with that friggin' hat. If it's in the den, I'm gonna fucking explode. Ghost, where's that hat? It's not okay for you to steal it. Oh, man. Oh, man. It's a friggin' den.
Yeah,
Man.
the shots of him just petting the foxes are pretty incredible, though. He's really like kind of domesticated them,
yeah,
just petting them like a pet.
like a little doggy. Yeah, he's got so many funny ways of talking. Like there's this one line, I don't know why it is. It rings in my head every time I think of this movie, is when he's in the tent and he's talking about the rain and he's like, "It just slowed down." Like the way that he says it, like with his like weird raspy voice, it's just like, "And the rain just slowed down." Like and then when he's like, "Let's have some rain, Jesus boy." Christ man or Hindu floaty thing. Oh man.
That's a good Treadwell impression. Yeah, and he like you could he's definitely like in too deep because like he's talking to people. He's like any person talking to their pets. Like
Yeah,
when he's
so
talking
true.
to the foxes, when he's talking to the bears, he's like exactly the same as the woman in Gates of Heaven who's screaming with her little black chihuahua. Who they're wailing together, and
Yeah.
like that's not what this is about. Like that's not what conservation is. Like the like sort of like he shouldn't have been there doing it how he did, because like you were saying, like getting the bears used to humans, humans used to bears, like that's not good. But also like these days, like with like leave no trace, like this guy tried to make a place for a salmon run up a creek, and like very like deliberately interfered with nature in a way that is not something that hardly ever happens. Like you never see that, and no one person ever should like make that call to like change ecosystems like that just because you like want a bear to eat a fish.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, it's uh, empathy. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. People who are interviewed in it who know him like talk about how like he feels like he like wants to be a bear, or like he like wants to mutate into a bear. Like they just talk about him like that's like kind of what that's like what he's going for, is like the he just wants to be a part of just wants to be a wild animal. He doesn't want to be a human kind of thing, which is an interesting idea. I do like uh this one quote of this one guy who's critical of Timothy, and he's like, it's tragic because he died and his girlfriend died because he tried to be a bear.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just the way he says that like made me laugh. It's just
Yeah.
like because that's basically what he's doing. He just wanted to be a bear, and he got him killed and got his girlfriend killed.
He seems to not really, I don't know, he seems to have a conflicted nature or a conflicted relationship with himself is the main thing. Like it seems like he had a really troubled past. And so this was his way of kind of like escaping himself. Like how he says that like when people would approach him, he would like woof like a bear at them.
Hmm.
Um, he's definitely like disturbed.
Yeah, but it's a great movie.
It
uh,
is. It's yeah, I mean it's an amazing exploration of this man's soul.
yeah,
And he did achieve something pretty remarkable.
yeah,
yeah,
it does feel like it's in conversation with Burden of Dreams too, a little bit, or just like with Herzog's view of nature and how obscene and
Hmm.
brutal it is. Like all of those ideas are in here. And
Yeah.
even Werner Herzog, he has this like one line, I've seen this madness on a film set, which feels like he's like
Mm.
referencing Klaus Kinski specifically in
Right. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Fritz Corraldo and Aguirre, The Wrath of God,
Hmm.
like in relation to Timothy Treadwell, that he's like has this kind of madness about him, which you can
Yeah.
kind of see, and like when he's like yelling about the park service and like just like going off on a crazy rant.
Yeah. He's got that those blonde locks too. His
Those
hair.
Kinski locks.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a Kinski kind of haircut.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe that was one of the
Werner's
inspirations.
attractions
Yeah.
to the person. Well, you mentioned the coroner, but yeah, we got to shout out that scene of him directly addressing the camera. Wes texted me last night about it because you're watching it, and I was like, save it for the pod. But yeah, Wes, do you want to talk about that scene with the coroner?
oh, this guy, I don't know if he's the one, if he's like the coroner or like what what his role was, but he's clearly been like waiting to do something like this for a long time, where he's just like in community theater, and he like has been practicing. But he's talking about like doing this like autopsy of like the body parts that were taken out of, I guess, the stomach of the bear. And
Mhm.
he's just such an actor, and he is so like in the moment, like he's got this monologue that he's like acting out with his hands sort of as he's going. It's crazy. It's funny. It's really good. But when I'm thinking about like watching like all these other characters who are like in some ways like performing for the camera, and then like this guy shows up, like this guy loved having this opportunity. So yeah, that was very
It also like breaks like the format of like the filmmaking of the movie, because like it's like shot handheld, it looks like, and he's talking directly into the camera, looking directly into the camera, which none of the other interviews are like that. So it like just has a completely different feeling for that section of the movie. And he's also talking about like the audio of his death, which we don't get to hear, but so it's just kind of a very interesting choice that Werner did or like this guy did as well for this moment. But I think it's effective.
Yeah.
Definitely makes you sit up in your seat and pay attention.
Yeah, the way that he describes the bear like digging into his scalp and into his back. And he's actually the first one to describe the contents of the audio.
Mm-hmm.
That like he's moaning in the background, and Amy, his girlfriend, who also was killed, is like screaming and hitting the bear with a frying pan. Um, so yeah, he's kind of the first one to kind of explain the details of his death. But no, I guess the guy who like early in the film, the
The
pilot
helicopter guy or
talks
the plane
about
guy.
finding his body. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I really do love Herzog's presence in this movie. Like, there's just one, like, he just goes overboard sometimes in a way that's so amusing, where he's just like talking about, Treadwell's organization, the Grizzly people. And he's like, Timothy, who had a natural tendency towards chaos. Like, like has to just like insert this like little view of him that he's like a chaotic human being.
and he is like he's right.
Mhm.
Like to boil like all the details down into that is a little bit of editorializing, but like the dude like changed his name, changed his voice, said he was from Australia, and would go with his girlfriend Jewel to the courthouse to watch criminals get sentenced for fun.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
Wow.
that's wild.
like uh so yeah, not to interrupt Austin, but
No, that was all I
uh
had to say. It's just, um, yeah, I don't know. I just keep going back to Herzog's presence in this film because I feel like it sort of is a character alongside Timothy Treadwell. And Herzog has this really great quote about documentary films that I really love, where he's saying that you shouldn't be a fly on the wall for a documentary film because that's basically just security cam footage. Like you can just have a camera running as a fly on the wall, but he looks at himself as a hornet that stings. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I like that. And Errol Morris, going back to him too, has the same sort of philosophy about documentary filmmaking that, the way that he is staring at his subjects makes him a character himself, the guy who's behind the camera, kind of like literally framing these people. They both have very dominant voices in their films, which I appreciate.
I have one quick question for you guys. Have you guys had any wild bear encounters
not really. I've
or sightings?
Yeah, I remember seeing one. I don't think I've seen any while I was like out hiking once, but I did see one up. I used to work off of Torch Lake at the summer camp. I was driving like south of there, so somewhere like over on Highway 31, sort of up north there. I just saw a bear like run down and like cross, like a black bear, like cross the road, just like right in the middle of the highway, and that was crazy. Because I always thought I would see one out in the wild, or like hear one digging for food and have signs of it, but not just like on the highway at 3 in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
that's the closest I ever got to a wild bear that I know of.
Yeah, I also saw a black bear on the side of the road up actually on the way to McGregor Bay, our cabin in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, and it was like kind of we're in Canada at that point. It was kind of nearing the end of the trip to getting to McGregor Bay. But yeah, it was just like a young, like teenage black bear, and he was like standing up on his hind legs on the side of the road, and then like he kind of just like turned around and like started running towards the forest. But I remember that being really exciting. It's like it's fucking bear. And I think yeah, I remember like some hiking trip or some family vacation to like the Smoky Mountains, and I think there was like a black bear up in a tree somewhere that my dad spotted. But those are the only ones that come to mind.
Yeah, I had a bear encounter as well in Canada. I was actually swimming near our cabin, and across the way, we saw a bear come down off the mountain and get into the water.
Was that a
And
black bear?
yeah, and it kind of like swam a little bit like further away from us and then kind of climbed back up into the mountain and into the trees. But I was like, man, I think I just swam with a bear technically. I'm kind of like a Timothy Treadwell myself.
That's really good.
Yeah, but I think that's the only time I've ever seen a bear in the wild. Probably thankfully. I think I would shit myself. And speaking of shit, we didn't talk about the poop.
Oh, he grabs the
Oh,
poop.
there's your poop. That's your poop. It
What's
just
in her
came out of
body?
you.
This was just inside her.
I
And then he
just
Like
also
touched
touching
your
it and it
poop.
stuck to
Yeah.
his hand.
Then there's also that really awesome grizzly bear fight that he catches on camera. Then he talks about how a bear shit during the fight.
Yeah. Went to the bathroom.
But yeah, you guys got any final thoughts on either of these two films?
I'll repeat myself, but yeah, I love Herzog's presence in this film. I think Timothy Treadwell's an incredible documentary character, and it's really a great portrait, but also a great film about filmmaking, I think, and the way that kind of magical moments can happen if you're just constantly filming. But yeah, I would also encourage if people are into this film to check out some of those Diary of a Grizzly Man films and kind of I think it does a little bit more justice to what Timothy was trying to do and not necessarily just like tell his story like this film is doing uh but actually see the kind of the work that he put in and how it kind of does justice to what he was trying to do.
Yeah, I don't really have any final thoughts. I just think both of these documentaries are great. I don't know if I could put one over the other. They're both doing two very different things. Yeah, I'd recommend both of these movies to anybody who likes documentaries or who likes animals, interested in the animal world and humans' relations to them.
Sure that.
Yeah, two beautiful movies that are like much bigger than what they are like purportedly about. Like Gates of Heaven is not really about the business of running a pet cemetery, nor is Grizzly Man about like what it's like to live with bears. Like they're both much more poetic than that in their own ways.
Existential.
They're existential. They're like both super American, and like show like how crazy life makes you. um, if you're honest with yourself. Both great movies. I think that this is going to be huge for the Patreon. I think you guys have a lot of money coming in. It's going to be huge for you guys.
Yeah.
You got my vote. I've been
Well,
meaning to
not
get one
yet.
here. I just keep forgetting. I know it, but there's one friend of Timothy Treadwell who was saying, he was talking about like he finds out that Timothy lied about a bunch of his past and stuff, and he's like, "There's this old saying on the farm: if it don't scare the cows, then who cares?" And I don't know exactly what it means, but I want to start using that more. So just want to bring that up too.
Yeah,
Good shout out.
that's a-
Good shout out.
Great words of wisdom and we'll leave it there.
Thanks, Wes, for joining Film with Family once again, going behind that dreaded paywall to talk about two great animal documentaries.
Yes. And thanks to everybody for listening. You know where to find us on social media. We won't give you the rundown, but get ready. Next week, we have our big interview with Herod Blank, which we're really excited about. Ties in great with what we talked about here and then what we talked about last week with my dad when we discussed Burden of Dreams. So
He has a great anecdote about Werner Herzog, too, in relation to Les Blank that you won't want to miss that.
yeah, you don't want to miss it. So we love the movies.
And we love our family. Also, next month on the Patreon, we got 2 animated animal movies, Watership Down and The Plague Dogs. So that's what's coming up next month on this animal thing.
The creature double features.
The creature double feature. Thanks again, Wes. This
Thanks,
has been a
Wes.
blast.
Thanks, guys. This was fun.
Woo, yep, woo, yep, woo. And the family is gone. And Wes is gone.
And Henry is gone.
Hey, Zach, can you watch my cat this weekend? Since I watched your cat last weekend. Can you come take a look, Henry?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this weekend I think I could do it, yeah.
This is a real ass.
This is good because you came last week and gave Ganoush some food.
Yeah.
So I'll do that for Henry.
Just like check on him Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, because you got the automatic feeders going, so I don't really have to do anything. He just needs the company.
Yeah. Just
That's
friend.
that sounds good.
Sweet.
That's beautiful.